Ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels, constantly busy, but maybe not getting the results you really want? Like there's some secret out there to being more focused, more productive, maybe more successful. Well, you're definitely in the right place today. We're doing a deep dive into a real classic, Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I mean, this book has genuinely changed millions of lives, still does.
Absolutely. And our mission here today is pretty clear. We want to unpack all 7 of these habits quickly, clearly, but not just as, a list of tips, because honestly, they add up to a complete mindset shift, a real paradigm shift, stuff you can start thinking about applying right away. We really want to pull out the core ideas and show how these habits guide you toward, well, not just getting more done, but living a more purpose-driven, effective life overall.
Okay, sounds great. Let's unpack this wisdom then. We should probably kick things off with habit number 1, be proactive. Now, on the surface, it sounds simple, right? Take control. But what does Covey really mean by proactivity? It feels like there's more to it.
That's a really good place to start because, it's often kind of misunderstood. See, proactive people understand there's a difference between their circle of concern and all the stuff we worry about but can't really control, like the global economy or what other people think, and their circle of influence. That's the stuff they can actually do something about. They don't waste energy blaming things outside themselves or just reacting constantly. Instead, they consciously choose their response. It's this fundamental shift away from saying, oh, there's nothing I can do, and asking, okay, even in this situation, what can I do? How can I influence this, or at least my reaction to it? That focus on your circle of influence, that's where the real power lies. That's where effectiveness starts.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if we start by being proactive, taking responsibility, focusing on what we can control, Covey then says the next big step is habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. Why is knowing the destination so important before we even, start the journey? It feels like building a personal compass.
Exactly. A personal compass is a great way to put it. Covey talks about how everything is created twice. First, there's the mental creation, then the physical one. This habit is all about that first creation, the mental one. It means getting really clear on a long-term vision for your life. What's your personal mission? Defining your core values, setting goals that actually line up with those values, and ask yourself that big question, what kind of life do I really want? What do I want people to remember? So, every decision you make, big or small, ideally, should be moving you a little closer to that vision, making sure, as Covey puts it, that your ladder is leaning against the right wall.
Right, okay. So take control first, then figure out where you're actually going. It feels like we're setting up a kind of internal operating system for being effective. So how does habit 3, put first things first, help us actually do that day to day? Because let's be real, staying focused with everything coming at us is probably one of the biggest hurdles.
This is really where the first 2 habits get put into action. It's about disciplined execution. And Covey makes this brilliant distinction between just being busy, running around, and being truly effective. He challenges you to focus on what's genuinely important, not just what feels urgent in the moment. He uses that famous time management matrix, right, with the 4 quadrants. Most people, he argues, get stuck in quadrant urgent and important things like crises, deadlines, or they spend a lot of time in quadrant 3, urgent but not important, like pointless interruptions, some meetings maybe. The real key, the secret sauce for effectiveness, is spending more time in quadrant 2. That's the stuff that's important but not urgent. Things like long-term planning, relationship building, learning, exercise, preventative stuff. These activities build your capacity for the long haul, your production capability, instead of just constantly putting out fires.
That's a huge mental shift, isn't it? Moving beyond just ticking off the urgent items on a to-do list. Okay, so those first 3 habits, proactive, end in mind, first things first, Covey calls those the private victory, right? Moving from dependence to independence. Now here's where it gets really interesting, I think. We shift to public victory with habit 4. Think win-win. This feels like a different way of looking at relationships, at business, moving away from pure competition. But, win-win sounds nice, but in the real world, doesn't someone often have to lose for someone else to win? How does Covey tackle that?
Yeah, that's the exact tension he addresses head on. Thinking win-win means you actively search for solutions where everybody comes out ahead, where everyone feels good about the outcome and is committed to it. It comes from what he calls an abundance mentality. The belief that there's enough success, enough resources, enough good stuff to go around. It's not a limited pie where my slice means less for you. It completely reframes things from me versus you to us, you and to me. It pushes back against that scarcity thinking, that zero-sum game idea, and tries to build an environment where collaboration and mutual benefit are the goal, finding that third alternative where everyone gains something important.
Okay, so seeing possibilities instead of just limitations, that makes sense. And building on that idea of better interactions, habit 5 really focuses on communication. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This one feels incredibly relevant today, Seems like everyone's talking, not many are truly listening. What's the core lesson here?
It's such a critical point. Most of us, most of the time, listen with the intent to reply, not really to understand. We're filtering everything through our own perspective, our own experiences, thinking about our response while the other person is still talking. Covey pushes for true empathic listening, giving someone your full attention, trying to genuinely grasp their point of view, their feelings, their needs, without interrupting, without judging, without immediately jumping in with advice or your own story. And the payoff is huge. When people feel genuinely heard, truly understood, like you made a deposit in their emotional bank account, they become so much more receptive to actually hearing your perspective later. It builds trust. It opens the door to real influence, not just manipulation.
Right. And once you have that trust, that understanding, that's where real collaboration can spark, isn't it? Which leads us straight into habit number 6, synergize. Covey says this isn't just basic teamwork, it's like teamwork supercharged. What does it really mean to synergize?
Synergy, basically, is all about valuing differences, deeply valuing them. It's recognizing that when you bring together different strengths, different viewpoints, different experiences, you can create something way better than what any single person could have come up with on their own. It's not just compromise where everybody kind of gives little and nobody's thrilled. It's about aiming for a third alternative, a new solution that maybe nobody thought of initially, but that emerges from that respectful, creative collaboration. That's where the famous 1 + 1 idea comes from, or maybe even 1 + 1 = 10 or 100. The whole becomes much greater than the sum of its parts when you really tap into that collective energy and creativity.
That sounds incredibly powerful. Okay, that brings us to the final habit, number 7, sharpen the saw. Now, this one feels a bit more personal, more inward focused maybe, but Covey says it's essential for keeping everything else going. Self-renewal. Why is this so vital, and what does it actually look like in practice?
Well, you know the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. That's essentially habit 7. It's about deliberately, consistently taking care of the 4 key dimensions of your life. Your physical self, your mental self, your social emotional self, and your spiritual self. It's investing in yourself as your greatest asset, maintaining your production capability, so you can actually practice the other 6 habits effectively. So practically, that means things like regular exercise, good nutrition, getting enough sleep, that's the physical. It means reading, learning, writing, engaging your mind, that's the mental. It means building relationships, practicing empathy, serving others, the social emotional. And nurturing your spirit through things like meditation, prayer, spending time in nature, clarifying your values, the spiritual dimension. The idea is, the more you consistently invest in sharpening that saw and renewing yourself across all these areas, the more effective, resilient, and capable you remain over the long haul. It prevents burnout and allows for sustained peak performance.
Okay, let's quickly recap those 7 habits then. The whole framework for effectiveness according to Covey. Number 1, be proactive, take responsibility, focus on your influence. Number 2, begin with the end in mind. Know your destination, your values. 3, put first things first. Prioritize the important, especially quadrant 2. 4, think win-win. Seek mutual benefit, abundance mentality. 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Listen empathetically. 6, synergize. Value differences, create better solutions together. And number 7, sharpen the saw. Continuous self-renewal across body, mind, heart, and spirit.
Exactly. And it's so important to remember, these aren't just like 7 handy tips. They really do represent a whole different way of thinking, a complete mindset shift. Getting a handle on them, internalizing them, it really can help you lead a much more purposeful, effective life. And what's fascinating truly is how they all link together. They build on each other. You move from private victory to public victory. It's a whole integrated system.
Absolutely. So, for you listening, here's something to chew on. What if you focused on just one of these habits this week? Maybe really try to listen first before speaking in a difficult conversation. Or maybe consciously schedule one quadrant 2 activity, something important but not urgent. How might just that one small shift change your perspective on a challenge you're facing? And what surprising ripple effects could that single action create in other parts of your life? Something to think about how these principles, especially working together, could reshape how you tackle both the everyday stuff and your biggest goals.